got a sensing life is passing by. So if you want a solution, my friend.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're watching Raising Children, a program that concerns itself with marriage, child-related issues. I'm your host, Uthman Barry. Sister Jamila, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I've heard a couple of interesting things about you. First of all, that you were born and reared as a Muslim.
Yes.
In America, presumably.
Yes, in Virginia, a small town called Gloucester, not too far from Williamsburg.
Right. Very interesting, yeah. So, where did you get your degree in America?
You said where or when?
Where?
In Howard University in Washington, D.C.?
Oh, yes. We had someone from that university here recently.
Okay.
Yeah. You have 5 children that you homeschool. This must be...
Actually, I only have 4.
Oh, 4.
You guys are giving me a new one.
I'm sorry. My sources have misled me.
It's okay.
Yes, you still have one space to fill. Your 4 children, what ages are they?
I have 10-year-old twins. That's a boy and a girl. And I have a 7-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy.
Okay. Why did you choose to homeschool them, and how did you go about it?
Well, I've just been in love with the idea of teaching your children at home and the freedom to learn and learn at their own pace and this sort of thing since, you know, they were very, very small before they were even school age. And it was always a good idea to me, I thought. When we moved here, we were looking for equally balanced Arabic and English education.
Let me guess, you didn't find it.
Right. So after a couple of years where we were, and just on a number of different levels, it wasn't working out. So I just decided, you know, class, I'll do it myself. And alhamdulillah, we have a very good Arabic teacher who comes in every day. And so I do the English subjects, and she does Arabic and Quran with them. And alhamdulillah, it's working out very well.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
Did you put your children initially in the private school, or did they ever go to school?
Yeah, the older 2, the younger 2 have never been. The older 2 were in a school where the students and the teachers were Arabic-speaking, native speakers. All of the classes outside of Islamic studies and Arabic was conducted in English. So this was, you know, my thought of, you know, I didn't want them to be in an international school where they have, you know, Arabic for non-Arabs and they don't really get a chance to use it and speak it and everything. So that was like the balance, the only balance that I could kind of find. So.
Good.
So what comparative analysis would you make between your children who have never been to a school at the same age of your children when they went to school? Do you think that they're more advanced, the ones who've only been homeschooled, or they're the same, or what do you think?
Well, interestingly enough, one of the primary reasons of taking the older 2 out was because I felt like I was running out of time in terms of brain development with children, just really feeling like, you know, those early years were the years to really get them in their language development. So my younger 2 has now, the Arabic teacher, she's been coming for this is her 3rd year with us. Their comprehension and their understanding is much better than my older 2. However, their reading, because the older 2, you know, they're in school and they're just, you know, the whole class is reading and it's chanting and, you know, this sort of thing. Their comprehension was much lower than the younger 2. But their ability to read, they couldn't understand what they read, but their ability was probably much better in writing as well, much better than the younger 2 at this point. But alhamdulillah, their fluency, they're able to hold conversations, they have the confidence, they have the vocabulary that they didn't have while they were in school.
Would you say they're at the stage of bilinguals? No?
The older 2, definitely. The younger 2 are still at a stage where they are understanding much more than they're able to speak and are coming into being able to, you know, have complete sentences and say what they need and want, you know, in Arabic.
How do you solve the problem of books, sister? What system do you use? Do you have different ones for different children, or they all follow the same thing? I
have many people homeschool in different ways because we're here in the UAE, and there's always an issue of if your children have to re-enter into school, they need transcripts, and it's a big thing. So I've chosen to use a curriculum from the U.S. Every 20 lessons, I give the kids a test that's generated through this curriculum, and we mail it off, and they have like an advisory teacher at the school who checks their work, and whenever I need a transcript, then they would generate, based upon the grades that they've made for them.
So you're following a particular curriculum that's been established for homeschooling.
Well, this is, it's a Calvert program, and it's an actual day school in Baltimore, Maryland. And they had like a flu epidemic in the 1800s, and they started mailing out their curriculum, and they've been doing it ever since. So we get, all the textbooks and the teacher's manual and, everything you need. It's school in a box, they call it, to go through the year.
Well, there's one concern that I've heard people have about homeschooling, and that is if and when the children get ready to go to university level, the acceptance of homeschooling, how can you tell us about that?
I cannot speak on what it's like here in the Emirates because I don't know the universities here. Do they require some 12th grade examination that you have to be in school in order to take? In terms of the universities in the U.S., basically, they have, over time, they have seen, some universities actively recruit homeschooling students. Why? Because they have been in control of and responsible for their education, and they find that they are able to, because of this responsibility throughout their high school years, that they're able to function at a very good level once they reach university. So people who, a lot of times, the high school levels, you get a lot of online courses because the material is, more challenging, and not every parent knows how to teach, pre-calculus.
That's right. That's the problem, really, isn't it?
Right. So
parents may think it's a good idea,
but
there's
a number of resources now, especially with the internet, where kids can school from, and learning takes on many different forms. So, in a nutshell, the universities, they have a number of entrance requirements, and homeschoolers meet them in various different means, and by and do very well in university, and it's generally not a problem.
What do you do about games and physical education?
Well, it's quite interesting. There are a number, being in the Emirates, and especially in Dubai, there are a number of extracurricular activities, that your kids can be involved in. I've had my daughter was doing horseback riding, and my son for several years. I have another one in gymnastics. A couple of them play baseball and softball. So there's a lot of stuff, but I just want, there's, subhanAllah, depending on where you are. I know a sister, she's got 5 kids, and they live in a beautiful compound, and I take my kids down there on a weekly basis with their bikes because they can just ride and, be with other kids, and, they don't have to go and, enroll in some program or, do some, physical education because it's, their neighborhood is such that they can, just go out and have all of the socialization.
Got to stop, sister. We're up for a break now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, we'll be back in a little while. You're watching Raising Children. We're discussing, again, about home schooling and this sister's particular experience in looking after her 4 children at home. Assalamu alaikum.
Like every sunrise that brings forth each day.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You're watching Raising Children, the program that deals with marriage and raising children, of course. The problems today are more than they used to be, and so much so that many parents have shunned the public school system altogether and have chosen to teach their children at home. Our guest on the line, Jamila Rashid, she is an educationalist by profession and has chosen to look after and teach her children at home.
Well, there's one concern that I've heard people have about homeschooling, and that is if and when the children get ready to go to university level,
right.
The acceptance of the homeschooling. How can you tell us about that?
I cannot speak on what it's like here in the Emirates because I don't know the universities here. Do they require some 12th grade examination that you have to be in school in order to take? In terms of the universities in the U.S., basically, they have, over time, they have seen, some universities actively recruit homeschooling students. Why? Because they have been in control of and responsible for their education, and they find that they are able to, because of this responsibility throughout their high school years, that they're able to function at a very good level once they reach university. So people who, a lot of times, the high school levels, you get a lot of online courses because the material is, more challenging, and not every parent knows how to teach, pre-calculus.
That's right. That's the problem, really, isn't it?
Right.
That
So there's
parents may think it's a good idea,
yeah,
but
there's
actually
a number
they don't
of
have the
resources
ability.
now, especially with the internet, where kids you can school from, and learning takes on many different forms. So, in a nutshell, the universities, they have a number of entrance requirements, and homeschoolers meet them in various different means, and by and do very well in university, and it's generally not a problem.
What do you do about games and physical education?
Well, it's quite interesting. There are a number, being in the Emirates and especially in Dubai, there are a number of extracurricular activities, that your kids can be involved in. I've had my daughter was doing horseback riding, and my son for several years. I have another one in gymnastics. A couple of them play baseball and softball. So there's a lot of stuff, but I just want, there's, subhanAllah, depending on where you are. I know a sister, she's got 5 kids, and they live in a beautiful compound, and I take my kids down there on a weekly basis with their bikes because they can just ride and, be with other kids, and, they don't have to go and, enroll in some program or, do some, physical education because it's, their neighborhood is such that they can, just go out and have all of the socialization.
Sister Jamila?
Yes.
I was going to ask you about things like, for example, allowance and chores. Do you give your children an allowance, and what advice would you give to parents in dealing with this problem?
Well, I think that it's probably good to start, from a very young age, the children taking responsibility for themselves and their person. So from 3 to 5-year-old being responsible. If you've made a mess, pick up after yourself. And this can be, in the way of a fun sort of game. They've got their blocks all over the floor, and so, you hold the bucket for them, or you put it in the floor, and you say, oh, how many, squares can you throw in there, and how many rectangles, and how fast can you do it, and I bet you I can pick up more than you, and, this kind of thing. And so you get them at a very young age and being responsible for themselves. And a lot of small children, they like to sweep the floor, and they like to do whatever the mom is doing, and, sorting the laundry, that's, a lesson on colors, put the whites over here, and, all the reds in this pile, and this sort of thing.
At the same time, they're learning a very useful skill.
Right, exactly. So the older that they go, probably, children, I think, in my own opinion, younger than 7, they just don't have the ability to keep up with money. I think before the age of 7 or so, if you have them in the grocery store and they're able to learn about the value of money, when they then, are responsible for, 5 dirhams every week or something like that, they know that, okay, this amount is going to be able to, buy me this amount, or, and just, creating, depending on their ability level, charts are always a good thing to keep track of.
Charts, you say?
Yeah. To keep track of.
Explain, please.
Well, it can be a number of different things that you can do depending on your child's age and what they need reinforcement in. So it can be, for a 5-year-old who really isn't at the age to be responsible for money, it could be stars, So for every time that he gets up and he brushes his teeth without you asking him, he gets a star. And so by the end of the week, I don't know, you guys, he gets to go on a bike ride with only dad, and, that's his special treat, or, you decide on something.
What about punishments? Do you have the same thing for punishments?
For sure. Yeah, you take those stars away.
I see, right.
You know, just like they earn them, they can be taken away. So
well said, well said.
Yeah.
We think that's interesting in terms of a system. But, you know, I think children today, of course, they're being kind of focused on. Like, for example, if you go to the supermarket, and not even only the supermarket nowadays, as soon as you come to the counter, they have all the stuff there ready for the children when the parents are giving the pay. So I think they have a value for money at an early age today, due to the things that they want. And that's a little different. Of course, promotional people take advantage of that in a lot of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you, for example, what do you do at home? Tell us some of the things that you do at home you think are not being done in the private school or public school system?
In terms of their education?
Yes.
Oh, there's, I think it's a bit of apples and oranges. You know, it's a bit difficult to compare because anytime it's like there's a 4-to-1 ratio, and even, I mean, with the Arabic teacher who's here, there's a 2-to-1 ratio because she has half the kids, I have the other half, just in terms of the way my situation works. So anytime you have, you know, a classroom dynamic, you change the whole scope of education. You have to move at a pace that everyone can keep up with. So the very brightest their needs are not being met. The very slowest, their needs are not being met. Here you have an added level of issues because of language and different abilities in language, and the children being able to understand. So, you know, unfortunately, too, I think a big thing with my children who were in school is the use of being able to experience your education. You know, they were math can go from a very concrete to a very abstract thing in, you know, a matter of minutes. And if you have, you know, you tell the child 3 + 2 and they're not able to hold 3 of something and put it with 2 of something, it's like holding up a mango and asking the child how does it taste, but they've never had it in their mouth.
Sure.
So, you know, I don't know. I feel like having the kids at home, I'm able to tailor, you know, what they're learning to them and how they learn. You know, people learn differently. So, you know, the school has a number of challenges.
How about a comparative analysis? Let's say you have other friends, I'm sure, that are doing the same thing. Do you all come together and have other friends who maybe are educators who are working in schools? Do you all kind of come together and make comparative analysis? Do you see differences? You see differences between the children who are doing homeschooling and the children who are going to school, other than academics?
Yeah, I think that probably, and I don't know, obviously I'm seeing it from my own perspective, but I think probably the biggest difference between children who are educated at home and children who spend the majority of their day in a school environment is the relationship with their parents and the relationship with other people around them. You know, they have a very, you know, when you're in school, all of the people that are around you are of your own age group, and so you interact with them in a certain way, and you interact with other adults in a certain way, and their mindset and, you know, it's, yes, your child could be the one who's, you know, the standard bearer, but more often than not, they're learning from their peers. And do you really want your 5-year-old to be educated by other 5-year-olds? Yes, of course, the teacher is there, but outside of, you know, the academics, you know, that their behavior and their personality and their character, you know. And I think that picture that Allah gave every child doesn't survive very well in a school environment, but that's my own opinion.
What do you do about things like physics and chemistry where you need laboratory situations? Do you use someone's laboratory or?
Well, there's a number of very good catalogs where you can order the things in, and there's one it's big like kitchen science. So if you have, like, over the past summer, I just went through a catalog and I ordered, like, goggles. And, you know, my kids are still at a young age, but once they get into a high school age, you can even do stuff like dissecting, frogs and this kind of thing. You can order all of that stuff in. So it's possible. It's possible if my vision for that, if we're still doing it, when they get to that age, is to find someone, who's a chemist or who's a doctor and, who can explain those things to them. You have a variety of resources and ways that you can get it done.
I've got one last question. What about the child who was homeschooled being sheltered from the society as a whole, and how does that impact him once he does get out there? I mean, do you feel that being homeschooled, that the child becomes sheltered? What I mean is that he of course he is sheltered, but what I mean is to the point where it's difficult for him to function in the society later on as an adult? Or is there a methodology to wean him of that kind of thing?
Well, I think that the major benefit of keeping your children at home, and, I honestly believe that what the children has, what you've taught him up until like age 12, that's, everything in life is relative. And so if his point of relativity is what you have taught him and what you believe to be true and how he functions in the world and his relationship to Allah, that's what he'll come back to when he goes out in the world and he's faced with all of these other ideas.
We hope so, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay.
He'll be able to come back
sister,
to that.
Sister, you ever have any regrets about homeschooling, or does it continue to be an inspiration for you? Every morning you get up and you're thinking about what to do?
Some days are better than others, that's for sure. But
we've just got 30 seconds left now, so you can finish.
Okay. Some days are definitely better than others, but alhamdulillah, I'm very happy with the decision that we've made. And if you're in school, there's going to be something that you're missing out on. If you're at home, there's going to be something that you're missing out on. So nothing is 100%. But I think every parent has to decide for themselves what is the very most important thing, and what I'm doing reaching those goals. And if they're not, then remodify and figure out something else that will just let it go on and on and on and on. So,
Sister Jamila, we want to thank you for coming along and telling us about your life and your unique approach to education. I hope, inshallah, that many parents have learned from this. Inshallah. And thank you also, dear viewers, for watching. You've been watching Raising Children, and this week we've been talking about homeschooling and the particular problems associated with that. I'm your host, Uthman Barry, and we hope you'll join us again in the future. From all of us to all of you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Like every sunrise that brings forth each day, brings new